Welcome back. Donald Trump's attorney in the Manhattan case has made it clear Trump has no intention of settling.
He decided we have to fight now. President Trump will not take a plea deal in this case. It's not going to happen. There's no crime. I don't know if it's going to make the trial because we have substantial legal challenges that we have to front before we get to that point.
Well, those motions and a trial will likely stretch well into 2024. This will have major implications, whether we like it or not, for governing in Washington throughout this calendar year in 2023, and of course, for the campaign year of 2024. West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin represents a state that voted for Trump by nearly 40 points in 2020. He himself has not said whether he plans to run for re-election next year or not, or whether he may instead run for president on an independent ticket if he deems the parties too far to the left or right. And the nation's leading centrist these days, Senator Manchin, joins me now. Senator, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Hey, Chuck, it's always good to be with you.
Look, there's always a lot to talk with you about, but I really want to ask you the first thing, your reaction to the news that the former president, for the first time ever of any president, has been indicted on a criminal charge.
Yeah. Chuck, it's a very sad time for America, and I feel like other people do. It's very sad for our country to have to go through this. And a segment of society who believes that maybe it's biased, that the system doesn't work for all. We'll have to wait and see what comes out next week, but I would hope and pray that whatever comes forth, that they've done due diligence, they're very, very accurate on what they're doing, and understanding that the rule of law is that basically no one's above the law, but no one should be targeted by the law. We just got to make sure that we understand that we have to come together. This country cannot, we cannot be a house divided. As Abraham Lincoln said, a house divided cannot stand. And we've got to come together. And the rule of law makes us different than any place in the world.
You said it was a sad day for the country. Do you see it as a sign of health on the democracy, that we have a system that can do this? Or do you fear that this could expose an unhealthy side of our democracy?
Well, again, that's what comes forth next week. We'll see to the extent of the evidence that's had. And again, I say everyone is innocent until proven otherwise. We have to understand the rule of law makes us so much different. No one's above the law. Not a president, not any congressperson or senator, and none of us are above the law. Mm-hmm. But with that, we should not be targeted, and the judicial system should not be targeted and used against anyone.
What do you mean?
So
you're saying it's targeted,
sure
what do you mean by that? Do you think that there's evidence that he's being targeted politically?
No. I'm saying that basically we've got to bring people together. We've got so many problems in America. When you look at what we're dealing with, we've got a budget crisis that we're not even talking about right now. We've got inflation. We've got high cost, grocery stores, energy, gasoline just to get to work. We get all these things, and we get bogged down and continue to divide our country. It's not who we are as Americans. It's not what the world is looking for, mm-hmm. and the leadership of America must give it. Our judicial system has to be fair and balanced. That's what I'm hoping comes out of this, that people understand it is fair and balanced, and everyone's going to be held accountable, but no one should be targeted. You think it's the rule of law? It's who we are.
Do you think it's a mistake for Speaker Kevin McCarthy to instruct House Republicans to investigate the Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg? We don't even know what the indictment says. But he's already endorsed the idea of investigating him because it seems to get in the way of what you just said, of doing the more serious business of governing.
Well, my conversations with Kevin has been about how do we get a budget? How do we not hit this budget crisis and cause undue damage to Americans and cost? I talked to him about those things. How do we get a permitting bill that allows us to build what we need to deliver the energy that we need? Yeah. We're talking about how do we run our country and how do we do our job, which we're not. So when you get off on these tangents and you get the extremes right and the left, that's what people are tired about. They're tired of seeing the political parties retreat to the extreme right and left and say, okay, pick your side. That's why people were saying enough is enough. Yeah. I can't take it anymore. I mean, can't we just get along? Can't we just do our job?
A lot of your Republican colleagues in the Senate are already attacking this case, which only serves to go against what you've just been telling me. John Barrasso, who's not usually a bomb thrower, called it politically motivated prosecution by a far-left activist. Ted Cruz called it the death of the rule of law. Josh Hawley called it an assault on our democracy. Tom Tillis said it doesn't pass the smell test. I focus on Barrasso and Tillis because I know you have a good relationship with both of them. To attack this now, I mean, doesn't that do exactly the opposite of what you're advocating?
Well, yeah, they have to understand. Again, I say we must come together. The American people want us to do our job. The more you talk about that, the more you make people pick a side. Are they right or wrong? You give more credence to basically, is it biased or not? Does the rule of law work for all of us? Let's wait until what comes out next week. Let's see the direction this goes. But the bottom line, it's a very sad time in America. You know, you have geopolitical unrest around the world. Just think of the people that don't wish our society or our form of democracy to work, whether it be China, Russia, or whoever. They're looking and saying, oh my goodness, let's just sit back and kind of watch this melee unfold. Well, I want to show them that as Americans, we can work together. We can meet the challenges. We can basically lead the free world and come to the aid of our allies that have the same thirst that we have for the freedoms with democracy. And that's what I keep working on, and I keep saying, I talk to people around the country, they can't take it anymore. They're just tired. They're wore out. Enough is enough. Please do your job. Get a budget. Live within your means. Start getting this crippling debt down. Get rid of inflation. Give me energy that basically gives me security, but also be able to invest in a new technology of the future. You know, that's what we've been trying to do, Chuck.
Senator, you sound like a presidential candidate, and I don't just say that here. In this morning's Washington Post, you openly admit you're thinking about it. You told the Post in an interview today, if enough Americans believe there is an option, and the option is a threat to the extreme left and extreme right, it will be the greatest contribution to democracy, I believe. You were asked whether you would participate in a no-labels ticket. And you didn't rule it out, in or out. But like I said, what you just sounded like there, that sounded like what a presidential candidate says when they're trying to bring the country together. How serious are you about this?
Well, first of all, Chuck, if you look the last 40 years, I've been involved in public service through my great state of West Virginia. And since I've been a senator representing the state of West Virginia, it's always been about being a centrist in the middle. I tell people I'm fiscally responsible and socially compassionate, which I think most Americans. They've been driven to the corners to pick a side. Right. When you're asking me what I'm going to do and what my political ambitions would be, is to make the country work together and be a united states and not a divided states. And that's what I've seen happen over the period of time. I'm going to do whatever I can to have a voice in that middle that we can basically force both sides to say, wait a minute, you've gone to extremes. Right. You've got to start coming back. You've got to find ways to solve problems. You can't solve them from the extreme right and the extreme left. You can't make people pick a side. What side are you on? Well, I'll choose the left or the right or the D or the R because this one's not as bad as that one. Neither one of them are doing the job the way we should do it, but one's not as bad as the other, so you pick a side. I think we can do better than that, and if we can change that dialogue and have a movement, Chuck, then we've done our job.
44% of Democrats this week in a Monmouth poll said that they wanted Joe Biden not to run again. 25% would like to see him run again. There were sort of 30% in the messy middle. Where are you? Would you like to see him run again or not?
Chuck, let me just tell you this. I've always said this. No matter who my president is, whether it's a Democrat or Republican, whether it's someone I voted for or not, whether it's in the same political party or not, doesn't make a difference once the people of America speak. And that's our president, and I'm going to do everything I can to help them be successful, whether it's Donald Trump or whether it's Joe Biden. I've known Joe Biden for quite some time, and I've tried everything I can, and I will continue to try to be a productive senator and try to help my country move forward. But I've got to speak truth to power when I know that we can do better. When I know a piece of legislation that we wrote was intended to give us energy security and lower prices and make us much more able to help our allies around the world, and it's going a different direction because they want to interpret it differently.
Do you think Joe Biden lied to you?
Yeah, Chuck, I'm not saying that the president lied to me. I'm saying that basically what we agreed on, the president and I agreed on, what this bill would do, it would give us energy security. It would bring manufacturing back to America as quickly as possible. We would not be relying on foreign supply chain such as China to run our transportation mode. We talked about all of that. We would pay down debt for the first time in 20 years. We talked about all of that. We agreed exactly that's what it should do. And now to have different parts of his administration basically administering it and writing rules and regulation that are totally foreign to what we did is wrong. And I'm going to fight that. You need to speak truth to power, but basically hold people accountable.
Right.
And I'm hopeful that the president will step forward and tell his administration, we will follow the law. We will do what the bill was intended to do.
Let me ask you this. What's it going to take for you to endorse Joe Biden? You don't seem ready to do it. That's for sure.
I'm not ready to do anything this year. Only in America does the next election start after the day after the last election ended. I don't do that. I got a lot of work to do this year, and I'm going to work with everybody. Come on, let's get our budget under control. Let's get our spending under control. Let's make sure we bring down inflation. Let's do all the things that we're supposed to do. And if you're just throwing bombs and attacking everybody for 2 years, I think next year when it starts in January, 1 year would be enough to attack. You don't need an extra year.
So bottom line, we'll find out if you're going to run for president January of 2024?
My filing date is January 15th in 2024, and I will make my decision maybe a little bit before that. But not until the end of the year, I can assure you.
And do you know whether for sure you're going to be running as a Democrat or as something else?
Well, you know, the party identification is not going to change me. Democrat, Republican, I mean, having a D and R should not change you as a person. I'm going to still fight for the things I do. Can't I be a moderate centrist with whatever identification or no identification? I would think. I'm not going to be changing as a person. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm going to continue to fight for the people of West Virginia and the people of my great country. Proud to be an American.
And when you hear people say that you might be a spoiler if you run for president, what would you say to that?
I would never intend to be a spoiler of anything. I would like to basically be a promoter of united government, a united government that basically has provided the greatest opportunities in the world. My great-grandparents came to this country for the opportunities it provided. I'm a product of that. I'm very, very, very appreciative of that. And I'm going to continue to try to offer that to people, countless people in America and around the world.
Senator Joe Manchin, right now, a Democrat from West Virginia. It is always a pleasure to get your perspective on this program. Thank you for sharing it with us, sir.
Well, it's good to be with you, Chuck. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.